Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Complete Sports Media's podcast. I'm your host, Darren Campbell. And of course, joining me on a Monday to do a great weekend wrap-up of sports, Jason Cameron. Fresh off a Mother's Day weekend, were you able to see your mom or at least give her a call, say hello?
I would have done that, but I think you forgot something.
No, like your Abbotsford mom. You're
Oh,
like,
but,
yeah,
okay.
you've always referred to you have a
Yes.
second mom, and I'll never forget that. But
Okay. All right.
You do have a mom, right?
Yes. We did talk. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of forgot to talk to her again earlier this because I think I talked to her last week, but I didn't phone.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that, but I'm gonna have to phone. I'm gonna have to phone.
Never phone.
Yeah, but the weekend was good.
Nice.
Weekend was good. Got together with a friend that I hadn't seen, a couple of friends I hadn't seen for a while. So we just went over at a buddy's place and just had drinks and chatted.
Nice. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Well, what about yourself? How was your week?
The weather's hot. It's getting pretty hot around here. Yeah. It's starting to creep up and up and up into those 30s. So yeah, we feel it here when it hits the 30-degree mark.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I'm feeling it right now as we're talking.
Yeah.
It is hot. It is warm.
Yeah, it was a warm weekend. I'm kind of lucky down here because we get quite a bit of wind coming in off the water, so it doesn't feel as hot as inland. But when you're more inland, yeah, for sure, it's starting to get hot. I don't think it's going to be too much longer though. This type of hot level.
No, I was looking ahead at the weather report, and apparently heat's going to drop by at least 10 degrees. Actually, even starting tomorrow.
Wow.
So that's like a lot better. It's a lot better for sleeping at night, where you're just like, oh, I'm up again because it's too damn hot.
Yeah, that was something I noticed last night for sure. I had too many blankets on, and yeah, it was like, oh, how do I got to get to a comfortable heat level, and it was hard to do that. So yeah, it's the first time I think this year that I felt that way. We had, I think it was it last year where we had that really bad heat wave, or was it 2 years back?
I think it was 2 years.
Okay.
Right, and that's when it was like 40 degrees.
Yeah, that was really rough. Yeah,
3-4 days.
Yeah,
I melted. Like I just felt like I was melting.
It was tough. That was really bad, and I was shocked to hear that a lot of people passed away, and that just really blew my mind. I think they said like 1,500 people passed away from that or something brutal. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to endure that ever again. But yeah, that was a rough one. Glad we're not getting it that bad now, but I'm loving it. I love how light it gets early, how light it is super late now. It just feels great, puts you in much better mood, and I look out and just see sunshine. It feels so much better. And this weekend was funny because Saturday, one of those first nights in so long where there was no sports going on. It was just so weird. UFC had an early card. There was no NBA. There wasn't one NHL game, but it was like quiet. And I was like, what am I going to do with myself on Saturday now? This is interesting. No sports. But we took a really nice trip down to Steveston and spent some time down there. Had a really good walk. They have a nice seawall walk, and then we went for a really good lunch, and we went down to the fishing boats and saw their the latest seafood catches and stuff like that. And yeah, I had a really good day in Steveston and had a very nice chilled evening. It was kind of refreshing. I had a little bit burnt out on sports, to be honest, and so I thought, wow, finally a Saturday night where there's nothing happening.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And it was, to be honest with you, it was a little bit nice not having any sports. So then almost it's like, well, then my day's free.
Yeah,
I'm free. I can just do whatever I like. And it was cool that the UFC was on so early because then watched, and then it's out of the way.
That was nice. That was really great. Yeah, done so quick. And yeah, I wish they'd do that a little more. I'm not sure why they had that card on. Never heard why they put that card starting at 8:30 our time. That was pretty, or about 9 a.m. our time, I guess it was. And yeah, that was pretty amazing. So hope they do it again. But yeah, I wrote down all the things that were happening sports wise over the weekend, even though there was Saturday night nothing on. There was the NBA conferences going, set up the conference finals starting this week. We had the NHL playoffs. The very last game of the second round is happening as we speak. Seattle and Dallas are in game 7, heading into their conference finals. So I'll probably give you a couple of little look-ins at this game. Just started a minute and a half in to this game. So amazingly, the Kraken in their second season of existence are on the verge. If they can win tonight, they reach the conference finals. It would be pretty great and pretty good for this franchise and organization, and might be good for a eventual rivalry between that I-5 series with the Canucks, if the Canucks can ever figure it out and get good again. But yeah, I in a way, I guess I'm really cheering for the Kraken. It would be nice for Seattle to really get that hockey fever around their city.
That would be great. That would be great. I'm cheering for them too, because you know what I want to see? I want them to be just as successful as the Vegas Knights. Wait, I guess they already are. They're in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. Well, Vegas had that amazing run where they went all the way to the final that first year. So they're not quite there, but a lot of people didn't expect them to be anywhere close to as good as they're doing right now. So they had a bit of a down year last year, and then bam, they come out this year, played so great, and really given they gave Colorado, the defending Stanley Cup champions, such a hard time, and we were able to knock them off. And now a really good Dallas Stars team. This is it's really amazing to see, and it's cool because we get so many American channels and so many Seattle-based news and sports that I'm amazed to see a lot of this Kraken stuff is leading off their newscasts, is dominating their sports headlines, and they're really getting the hockey fever down there. And I really wondered for most of my life if Seattle would ever be a hockey town, and if the Kraken can keep going, I think they really could be.
Well, if they keep having this kind of success, they definitely will. And it just took them too long to have an NHL team. Like, that's the one thing that I was always surprised at. Like, why doesn't Seattle have an NHL team? Because geographically, makes sense.
Yeah.
They know what snow is, right? Like, as opposed to the Phoenix Coyotes, where they're just like, what is that?
Right.
What is this hard? Like, is this ice? Is that what they call it? Like, why wouldn't you have the Seattle there? Like, I'm just glad to see that it's there. I'm glad to see that they're flourishing. They're having success, because somebody in our general area should be having some sort of success. And if it can't be the Canucks, which it clearly isn't, I don't know how many years that's going to take. 8, 9, 12. Anyways, but at least we can cheer for the Kraken because they're good now.
Yeah. No, it's great. I'm really happy, and I'm glad they're doing well. And let's hope this continues. It would be incredible if they get a victory tonight. As I said, early, scoreless, and we'll give you some updates. So we had the hockey, the basketball. We also had a WNBA game north of the border here. First time that it moved from the south into the north. Sold out game, incredible support, and great to see. That was awesome. We mentioned that UFC card early. The XFL had a championship game, and were able to complete their season and get a champion. I watched some baseball. I watched 2 different golfs, the PGA and the Live Golf, which was great. And it was a super busy weekend, but I think we should definitely start right away with the NBA. We've got the conference final set. The exact same 4 teams that were in the bubble all have made it again. And a lot of people said that season that when the Lakers were able to get that title and win in the bubble, a lot of people said that it really wasn't that legitimate of a season because it was so short, and it really wasn't that full 82 game schedule and got them there. And these four organizations said, hey, we'll show you, we're still good, and we're going to keep going all the way. Two teams that were supposed to be there at the beginning of these playoffs and two teams that weren't have made it now. And this is interesting that 3 years later, we're seeing the exact four teams back in the conference finals.
Well, definitely, because, well, number one of the teams definitely didn't believe was going to be here, and that's the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Nobody would have ever guessed the Miami Heat would make it to this point, but they did. Now, everybody kind of thought the Celtics could be here. It took them 7 games, but they got here. Yeah. And then speaking of that 7th game, I do have to give somebody their flowers, which is Jason Tatum.
Wow.
Huge game.
Wow.
Definitely, he showed up for their most important win of the season, and he drops 51 points. And then on the reverse scale, Joel Embiid had one of his worst games I've ever seen played by a basketball player. I think he finished with, 15 points. I believe I saw 3 to 4 air balls that he threw up.
Oh, man.
And it's like, because that's not winning basketball. That doesn't prove to me that you're the MVP. This should have been one of his best games.
Yeah.
And he laid a dud, man. So definitely out of those two teams, the Celtics should be there.
Yeah, well, Philadelphia was able to win game 5 in Boston. Goes back to Philly. You think, okay, they're up 3-2. This is their shot. They can do it. And they were unable to win in Boston. So game 7, you're thinking, okay, well, MVP, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, the whole Philadelphia organization is going to just play their best game that you've ever seen and go toe-to-toe with the two guys that Boston's relying on, Tatum and Brown. Tatum has had really, really tough starts to all these fourth quarters in the series, and you were wondering, okay, is he going to start a game hot and start playing well? But I expected this game to go just mano a mano, back and forth, be a really high scoring 130, 129 type of a game. And Philadelphia absolutely imploded. This game was just horrible to watch because it seemed like they just gave up. They just did not have it. They did not put in the try. I just saw a team that just quit. And it was shocking, frustrating. Joel Embiid is the MVP of the regular season this year. He was finally going to prove to everyone that this process that they've had going for so long was going to finally bear some fruit, and they were going to go all the way. And he just laid a total dud. He had 9.4 points less per game in the playoffs than he had in the regular season. That's the largest drop-off in points by an MVP player in playoff history, and it was really brutal to watch. It's like they ran out of gas. They either ran out of gas, quit on their coach, or just run up against some trouble and just gave up. Something happened there, and it was just an absolute implosion. A lot of people are blaming it on Doc Rivers, trying to say that he just can't seem to win those big games. His record is 5-10 in game 7s now. The losingest coach in game 7s and elimination games. I don't think the blame should be put at his doorstep. I think James Harden ran out of gas, and I think Joel Embiid, when he looked around and didn't see anybody else, being able to go toe-to-toe with Boston, he just gave up too. And this was an embarrassing loss. It was really tough to see game 7 go this way and Philadelphia just bow out like that. Yeah,
completely embarrassing because the game was close. But when it got to that third quarter,
yeah. 33-10 was that the score? 33-10, they outscored them in the third.
Exactly. And Philly did not score for a grand total of 6 minutes and 20 seconds. And I believe within that time frame, Boston hit maybe 4 or 5 threes. And then that's when the game just kind of literally exploded out of hand. And once that did happen, you could see the 76ers completely deflated. And they were just like, kind of like, well, I guess we're going golfing early. We're going golfing.
Yeah.
And you could see it just in their demeanor and just like in their body language. Like they were done. They were done. Yeah. And I agree with you, though. I'm sorry, you just can't blame Doc because Doc's not out there to perform. He's not taking the court and he's not playing. So I would blame basically their all-stars or the MVP, Embiid and Harden. Where were you? These are the games that are supposed to matter. These are the games that are supposed to show up. You did.
That was brutal, yeah. Going to Jason Tatum, who you mentioned off the top. He broke that long historic 2-week record that Steph Curry had, his 50-pointer in that game 7 of the first round. 2 weeks later, he breaks it by scoring 51. The thing that really stood out to me was he had 51, he had 13 rebounds and 0 turnovers in that game. So this is a guy that, you know, is expected to lead. As I mentioned, had some really struggles shooting the ball and getting points in early parts of most of the series. But to get 51 in that game, no turnovers and 13 rebounds, this is one of those really epic performances that's going to be remembered by Celtics fans and most of us for a really long time, because it was a really amazing performance and you know, an MVP type performance for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely MVP type performance. I just would have preferred to see like what you wanted to see, a blow for blow between the best. Yeah. And when the final score is 112-88, sorry, but you do have to ask yourself, like, this is not what you would expect. Like, if you're going to lose a game 7, lose it close. Yeah. It's going to be a loss, but at least show up. And this is not them showing up whatsoever.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have seen some of that happen this year. It was strange to see teams just sort of give up and not be able to, you know, compete at the end of series. That we saw that with the Suns. The Nuggets were able to knock off the Suns, and the Suns were down by 30 points at the half. That happened to them last year against Dallas as well. In that final game, they got blown out by 30. And then the Suns, we said it right off the top when they made this play for Kevin Durant and decimated the rest of their team that maybe they just didn't have enough of depth to be able to go farther. Once Chris Paul got hurt, Deandre Ayton wasn't there in that last game. He really wasn't there in this entire series, but he wasn't there in that last game. Boom, they get blown out. And we hear that Monty Williams takes the fall for this. Man, it sucks to be a coach in professional sports these days. You take a team that's never been anywhere in their franchise, really, other than when Charles Barkley was there. This team had been wallowing in misery for so many years until Monty comes around, takes them to an incredible regular season, takes them to a final, wins it, Coach of the Year last year, and all of a sudden, no, he can't deliver a second round victory, and see you later. They turf him. Another guy that I don't think they should put the blame on, who took the blame for their loss and getting ousted out of the playoffs.
Well, it was weird for me, like, because like, why is he taking the downfall for what the GM did? Right. Yes, the owner wanted KD, but I'm sure the GM was like, but if we get him, we got no more players. We got like our starting 5, and that's literally it. And it was like, no, get that done. So when that happens, all of a sudden it's just like, well, then now the coach is like, I'm severely limited in what I can do. Yeah. I'm severely limited in what I can do. And it showed. It showed when they were playing. Because you can't expect Booker and KD to just score at this amazing clip and keep producing and making plays for others.
No.
Like for the entirety of the game. It's not sustainable. It's not going to happen. And
No.
then they ran out of steam at the end. And it sucked because now he's got to take the fall. Now, are they going to get another coach that's going to do as well as Monty Williams? Well, man, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, if I was a team that had a coaching vacancy, I'd be scooping him up immediately. The guy is a great coach, I think, and did, what he could with the roster he had, and was, had really amazing success in Phoenix. It looked like years ago, Booker, we were like, oh, he's going to just wallow in mediocrity and really never be recognized as a top level player because he's playing on such a terrible team. And, you're just not going to ever see that change. Like Damian Lillard in Portland, I just saw very similar type careers happening for both of them. And all of a sudden, bam, Monty Williams comes in, turns this team around. And, they've been one of the top teams in the NBA for the past 4 seasons since he's been there. But when Robert Sarver had the scandal in Phoenix and they said they wanted him out, he decided to sell the team to Matt Ishbia. I was applauding the move. It was great to see Sarver had really said and done things that weren't appropriate for an owner to say and do. And so I was really happy Ishbia had come in and bought this team. But the few things that I've seen him do lately, I'm really starting to question maybe he's not the guy. That ridiculous thing where he's holding the ball on the sideline, wouldn't give it back to the Nuggets, and the Joker, and then this move. I don't know. Maybe I really shouldn't have applauded the move before I saw the things that he was going to do with this franchise.
Well, the basketball thing was funny because for me, I'm like, oh, so he feels like he's really part of the team, like he's literally playing right now. That's why I didn't want to give it to Joker. And then I love the fact that it's like, who did he learn that from? Did he learn that from like professional soccer players? Because that flop that he did, magnificent. That was this is one of the best flops I've ever seen. Like I was like, wow, look at this guy.
Yeah, that was crazy, wasn't it? Yeah, that was quite the flop.
Yes, pretty impressive, man. But at the same time, you know what? I think the guy, I'm going to say this. Yes, he just took over the team and stuff. But I think he's extremely competitive and he wants to win now. I think as the years go by, as he owns his team, he's going to learn to have some patience because like this seems like a knee-jerk reaction of, well, obviously you don't know what you're doing, so you're gone. And they just doesn't look at the complete body of work and be like, no, actually, he's a really good coach.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to get the same sort of efficiency and excellence from the next guy.
Yeah.
But we'll find out.
Deandre Ayton is somebody that has had his struggles. The Phoenix, I know that you and I were both a bit critical when they didn't re-up him, sign him to an extension when he was eligible for it, sort of let him be open on the open market and see where his value was. He got signed to an offer sheet. They matched it. I think they're kind of regretting that now in hindsight because something happened to him. Obviously he was hurt enough to miss that 7th game, but do you think this injury lingered and was one of the main reasons why he wasn't there? Or is he one of those guys that, hey, I got the bag now, don't have to really put in the effort? To me, it seemed like that the second one, because I didn't see a lot of care there, a lot of try. I didn't see him battling for the boards, trying to get his touches, his minutes, I didn't see much of anything from him. It was very, very disappointing.
I think that was the reason why they didn't want to give him the bag in the first place. I think they always questioned his commitment to the team. Yeah. And I think that's why they didn't want to necessarily just give it all to him. They wanted to see, well, first off, what's his worth out there in the open market? And then we'll make a decision after that if we want to keep him or not. Yeah. And so they made the decision, but I would say right now going forward for the team, he's definitely a piece that I would look at trading.
Yeah. Yeah, well, his trade value has decreased down quite a bit. So, what are you going to get for him? I guess getting him off the books is a, great thing, probably, no matter what, if you get 60 cents on the dollar or something in that vein. But I don't think his trade value is very high right now.
No, I don't believe it is very high right now either. I would agree with you, but at the same time, I don't know if you want to keep him around for that much longer because, like, he really was not effective whatsoever in the Nuggets series. Like,
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah. So it is amazing that it's the same four teams that were in the bubble, but as I mentioned off the top, two teams were supposed to be there. Denver was number one all year in the West, and really competed for the best record in the sport, and were really dominant. And Boston, they were really good as well. They had some struggles in the playoffs here, bit of inconsistency, but they are both favored going into these series. Miami said they weren't supposed to be there. They got beat in that first play-in game, and then they win that second play-in game. They come in as the 8th seed, and you think, okay, well, they're up against Milwaukee here. There's no chance, and they proved us all wrong. They were able to beat an overmatched Knicks team in the second round and advance farther. Is this going to be a competitive series in the East between Boston and Miami? Miami doesn't have as deep of a team, I don't think, but they've been able to really do things that none of us expected they would.
I think it's going to be competitive. I believe it's going to be competitive just because you just can't count on the Heat now. You can't count them out, regardless of who they put out there. Like, as long as Jimmy Butler's still doing Jimmy Butler stuff, because it's still the playoffs, you can always count on that guy.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be extremely competitive, and also to Eric Spoelstra being one of, if not the best coach in the NBA. By the way, Miami does it right because they don't look at Eric Spoelstra and be like, well, what kind of season with this? Gotta get rid of him. No, actually, he's one of the best. We're just gonna roll with this guy. So, with that being said, Boston does have a really they got a nice team, and it's rounded out. Like, they got a full team. They got a great bench. That's why I believe that they'll overcome the Heat, but I think it might take them 6 games.
Yeah, you mentioned the coach, Eric Spoelstra. I think he holds massive edge over Joe Mazzulla, who's 34 years old, first year as a head coach, getting an opportunity. If Mazzulla makes some of the mistakes that he's made in the earlier playoff rounds, they could lose 1 or 2 games here and really be in trouble. I expect Jimmy Butler to have 1 or 2 of those Jimmy effing buckets games where you're just like, holy crap, he just put the team on his back and won. So I think this is going to be very competitive. I definitely think I favor Boston a little because their talent is stretched out a little more than Miami's is. They're relying so much on Jimmy Butler in this one. Robert Williams was a great addition to the starting lineup in that game 7, and I think his length, his try, and his compete level on the boards is going to be something that's very hard for Bam Adebayo to handle, and I think it'll be something where Bam is a little bit neutralized in this series.
Yeah, it's Bam's going to have a lot harder of a time going up against Robert Williams because Robert Williams is going to compete. He's going to combat him on those boards, and he's going to be like a shot blocker. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be a threat of blocking people's shots. So going down the lane, you're going to think twice about going down there. Because you see that guy and you're just like, well, okay, I'm going to have to loop this shot up a little bit higher than normal. Like, he's going to alter your shot. So It's going to be tough.
Okay, we mentioned Boston knocked off Philly, and we talked about Philly's troubles. One thing I didn't mention about Philly was James Harden had 0 points in game 5, 6, and 7 in the fourth quarter. 0 points in the fourth quarter in those 3 games. So what is that? I think it's time. James is out of there, and they'll have to retool and figure out what they're going to need. Let's talk about the Knicks. I think they had a season that nobody really expected. I think they played above their heads. Good on them to get into that second round. It looks like Julius Randle is taking the brunt of the criticism and reason why they didn't go farther and beat Miami. Does he deserve it? Was this a little bit too much loaded onto him? And was it mostly because he was banged up with his ankle injury?
I think it was a lot to do with his ankle injury. I think he was definitely affected by that. He was banged up by that. And obviously his point production dipped from what it was from the regular season to the playoffs. Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? Because he just didn't play up to the standard that we thought he would play up to. Because there's one guy that definitely did, and that was Jalen Brunson. He was magnificent. He was awesome. Like, so I look at the Knicks and I think to myself, they're actually kind of close. I think they may just need a couple of pieces here and there to add to what they already have. And I don't think it's much though, because they've shown us that. And with the addition of Josh Hart to that team, made them just that much better. RJ Barrett actually played very well, I thought, in the playoffs. So I think they're close.
Nice. Okay, let's just shift to the last team that we haven't talked about that got knocked out in the second round, the Golden State Warriors. Is this the end of their dynasty, getting knocked out in the second round by the Lakers? Is this something that every Golden State Warriors fan should be alarmed with? Have they reached the end of this ability to win titles?
I don't want to say that yet, but it kind of depends on where management wants to go next. Because, like, unfortunately, Klay Thompson did not play up to what we know Klay Thompson can play up to, right? So if they decide to move Klay Thompson, then that is it. If like they decide to trade him, that's it. That's it right there. So I'm not going to write them off as of yet, but it's very clear to me that they need more scoring from their wings. It can't just be Andrew Wiggins. They got to have more scoring from that position. And if they can get somebody to help in that department, that would be great for the team. But I don't know who they could get. And if they do get somebody of clear value, then they're going to have to get rid of clear value off their team as well.
Yeah. The new CBA that came out beginning of this season here has really hampered the ability for teams like the Warriors to maintain this without paying massive amount of tax. They have had so much success, 6 finals appearances in the last 8 years, 4 titles. All of a sudden, everybody wanted more money. They have a lot of contracts that are signed for the next few years, luckily. Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, they're signed through this upcoming season, one more season. So they have decisions to make there. Stephen Curry is signed through 2026. And Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, 2027, they're signed through. So with Steph and Klay having the max contracts, they have had the highest salary structure ever in NBA history, and they're paying a ton of luxury tax, a massive amount. And also their general manager, Bob Myers, does not have a contract going into next year. I would be very shocked if they don't re-up him and bring him back immediately. Steve Kerr and this entire organization should stay intact. I think make a decision on Jordan Poole. Obviously, Klay and Draymond, only one more year left. You got to start making decisions there. But it's very weird that Bob Myers doesn't have a contract after the season.
Yeah, it's odd. It's just weird because look at what he's done. Yeah. Look at what he's managed to construct for years. So you think just from what he's been able to do, bring 4 championships to the Golden State Warriors, just off that.
Yeah.
Sure, Bob. Here's some more money. There you go. Right? Just off of that. Because if they don't re-sign him, they let him walk, oh, he's not going to be on the market for that long.
No.
Somebody's going to snatch him up immediately.
One thing that seemed to happen this year over the last maybe couple seasons were the Warriors' succession plan. They were supposed to be bringing in young guys and really trying to, you know, bring that young talent in so that once the older guys are reaching, you know, the end of the road for them, they can continue going on in the future. James Wiseman was obviously a poor draft pick. They picked him second, didn't have the patience with him and sent him packing. Gary Payton bringing him back was great, but they had him before and they probably could have kept him if they had the money. But James Wiseman was a big step back. But the other things that I felt they did wrong were they didn't give Jonathan Kuminga any time in the playoffs. He really didn't come off the bench much and play. I thought, you know, he had young legs, would be able to bring a lot of contribution. Moses Moody, guys like that coming in and, you know, being able to have that succession plan. Something happened. There was a disconnect there between the older guys and the younger guys. And this team doesn't seem as cohesive as it was for many years in this run they had.
Yeah. The succession plan, unfortunately, didn't work the way that they thought it would. Because like they were working this core group of young guys to be effective, especially once they got to the playoffs. Yeah. So that they had people that they could count on other than their veterans. And it was a great idea. It's something that every championship team or organization wants to work on. This is what they want. But it just didn't work for the Warriors. It just didn't work.
Yeah. I love some of the pieces they have. I love what DiVincenzo brings to them. I love Kevon Looney and you know, his compete level. He had 18 boards in that final game in 26 minutes. You know, brought a lot for them and always will and always has. Gary Payton II, great to have him back. But yeah, it's tough to see a team that you start wondering if this is it. We've seen other organizations that were able to win some championships, and then, you know, we were like, oh, they probably still have a few more in them, and then they never did get there. It sort of starts making you wonder. The thing that I think is heartening is something that we can look forward to is that Steph Curry, I think, would be a guy that most superstars would like to play with because he's not super selfish. He's a good guy. He can, you know, really open it up for you, you know, give you a lot more opportunities to score and have success. And I think if they do move out some of the pieces that they have that they're paying high tickets to, they could probably bring in some big stars to surround, you know, the core and really look at winning some more titles.
Yeah, and also too with Curry, the other thing I'd add to that is that he plays off the ball and he doesn't need to dominate the ball to play his game. Yeah, and then that just makes it so much easier because he just doesn't need the ball all the time, right? Like it's like he'll be running off the screens, and if you can catch him off one, and then he's going to drain the shot. So yeah, he's a very easy superstar to play with, very easy. So, and also too, like the Golden State Warriors have a great reputation throughout the league, so it's a great organization to play for.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in mourning. I really hate it when the Warriors are out. I think they bring just such an excitement to the playoffs, to the game as a whole, and they're very fun to watch. This really put a big damper on my weekend and going forward for the playoffs as a whole. But the Lakers were able to make a huge shift. We talked about it last week. They were 25-30 at one point this season, sitting in 13th place in the West. They were able to make a really big trade, getting rid of Russell Westbrook and bringing in some pieces, and you know, made it into the play-in game. Were able to win that play-in game, so they got that 7th place, and were able to knock off the defending champions. Very shocking result. when you saw them, months back, I didn't see them being able to go far. They go in against Denver as the underdog. Do you think we also are going to see a super competitive series in the West, like you think we're going to see in the East?
I think so. As long as Anthony Davis stays healthy, by the way, I'm just going to add that as an aside. So I'll always add that as an aside with that guy in mind. As long as he stays healthy, should be very, very competitive. But again, I think Denver has the better roster, has the deeper roster, and they just play so well together. Like all of those guys understand their role on that team. And then Nikola Jokic, with the way that he plays as the MVP candidate, didn't win this year, but he's still that good. And he makes the game so much easier.
Yeah.
Like, he makes the game so much easier. Guys get better shots, more open shots. If you're moving without the ball, he's going to find
you. Yeah, two-time MVP, and to me, still the real MVP. A guy that plays the game the right way and gets his teammates involved. If his shot isn't going down, he's able to distribute the ball, continues to get rebounds, assists, and I don't remember seeing him shoot the ball like 25, 30 times a game like he did in some of these playoffs. And it's good to see him being selfish too when he sees the other guys aren't going. It's time for me to step up and take this game over, and he does so. Do you think he's going to have a lot of difficulty with Anthony Davis, though, in the paint there? Is that going to be a struggle for him?
I think it's going to be somewhat of a struggle for him, but it's not like he hasn't played against Anthony Davis before. It's not like these guys haven't played against each other before. So, but I expect a titanic battle between the two. I expect Anthony Davis to actually sincerely compete against Jokic because he has to. Because if he doesn't play well and Jokic keeps continually playing well, Lakers have no shot of winning this series. None whatsoever. I will say that right now. So he has to play well against Jokic.
They did play each other 4 times in the regular season. They both won 2 games each. All games were kind of blowouts. The first 2 games were in October, so a really long time ago. Denver won the first one 110-99. Second one, October 30th, Lakers beat Denver 121-110. Then they played against each other December 16th. Lakers won that one 126-108. And then their last game they played against each other was January 9th. Nuggets won 122-109. This was all before the trade deadline and all the things that happened to reshape the Lakers roster. With Westbrook gone, they were able to get D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley, and then they ended up also getting Rui Hachimura after that. So this team is totally different. Hard to really even go back and look at those as a measuring stick on how this series is going to play out. I just think that with Jokic getting these triple doubles, him being able to put up 50 points in a game when need be, I'm blown away by what he's bringing to the table. He got that 53-point game, as I mentioned. He averaged 34.5 points, 13.2 rebounds, and 10.3 assists per game in the playoffs. So, this is a guy that won the regular season MVP 2 years in a row, finished second this year, and I think hell bent on proving to everybody he is the best in the game and is going to win this championship, win the MVP, and say, hey, what are you going to say about me now? I think he's determined, and I'm seeing somebody that's being able to really just continue to get better and better and better every year. And I don't think I've ever seen him play this good. And it's quite a bit to say about a guy that's already won a couple MVPs.
Yeah, it does. It has quite a bit to say. But at the same time, since he's won all these MVPs, he should be taking the next logical step, which is to make it to the finals and win. Because there was another big man in his position. He was in this exact position a couple of years ago, and that was Giannis Antetokounmpo, until he finally won. And then once you won, then everybody kind of gets off your back. It's like, oh no, I did it. And so I hope that that for Jokic's sake that he can make it to the finals. And I think that's how it's going to play out. I think ultimately that's how it's going to play out. Two best teams, the one from the Western Conference and one from the East, will meet each other in the finals. That's what I think. I think it's going to be the Celtics and the Nuggets, but it's still going to be a tough battle to get there.
Yeah. Do you see this series lasting 6, 7? What do you think?
6 again. I'm going to give it 6. Yeah, okay. I think 6 because, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to give a reason why, because I think in one of these games, or maybe even 2 of these games, Anthony Davis just won't be there. He just will have bad games. Like he just won't be as present as he should have been. And then those games that they'll lose, that'll be the difference.
Out of the 4 teams, whoever wins the title, what's the biggest how do I say it? What's the biggest thing for any of these teams to win? Like, will it be bigger if LA wins because LeBron was able to overcome this and win his 5th title? Will it be bigger if Jimmy Butler finally wins one? Jokic finally wins one? Boston goes to the final last year, gets knocked off by the Warriors. They finally win one. Jason Tatum. What's the biggest, best, hugest story for the NBA? Which team wins and their star is the star of the series?
Okay, so I'd say the biggest story that you could have potentially is if the Heat get past the Celtics and literally, like I've said to you before, Jimmy Butler goes on a Dirk Nowitzki type run.
Right. Okay.
Like if he does that's because, like, first off, the number 8 seed. The last time a number 8 seed made it to the finals was the Knicks in 1999.
Right.
In a quite shortened season, right?
Right.
But if he's able to do that and win, it'd be like that would, to me, that would cement Jimmy Butler as, okay, so that guy should be in the Hall of Fame. Because he did that 1 year.
Right.
Right? Because it'd be the same, like it was like, remember that when 2011 when Dirk Nowitzki won? He beat LeBron, prime LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
And kind of did that on his own. So if Butler can do that, yeah, he's right there.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I think you're very right. But what about LeBron? Okay, LeBron's won 4 championships. He's been to 10, 4, and 6 in the finals. Would this be his greatest accomplishment at 38 years old, 20 a season? He knocked out the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant. He knocked off Steph Curry, knocks off Jokic, and then either the Celtics with Tatum and Brown or the Heat with Jimmy Butler. Would this be considered his greatest title ever?
No, I couldn't. I can't do it. You want to know why? Because in the finals, he came back down from 3 games to 1, right? Against, you could say, literally the greatest team anybody's ever seen, ever play basketball, right? And so every time they do that, there's the stat of how many times a team has come back down 3 games or whatever to 1 or 0. It's 40-1.
Right.
And LeBron being the 1.
The 1, yeah.
The 1. So that's why that's his greatest accomplishment ever. It's going to be super hard to ever eclipse that. But, if he wins this 5th one, it's pretty good. That's pretty good, man, because he's at 38 and everything else, and he still led a team to yet another championship. Yeah, that's still pretty impressive. But that one that he did right there, I think that's his crowning achievement.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think the sexy pick and the pick that probably the NBA wants to have is the Celtics against the Lakers. Both franchises have won 17 titles, so whoever wins the next one is the winningest franchise in basketball history. Television execs will love that because they'll be able to pull out all the old footage of all those series that Boston and LA have had against each other. And, there's so many storylines, so many things. We'll be able to see all the old Lakers come back and watch games, all the old Celtics come back and watch games, be able to hear stories about some of the epic battles over the years. I think, to me, that's what the NBA hopes for. That's what these 2 franchises and they're such big cities. They're going to have just, incredible viewership. I think that's the sexy pick for the final.
Yeah, yes, definitely. When you're talking about TV and TV revenue and East versus West, that is it. That would be what the NBA would probably want to see the most, because that would garner the most eyeballs. Everybody would be very interested in watching that series if it went down that way. Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. The Nuggets and the Lakers did face each other in the conference finals, like I mentioned, in 2020. Lakers won in 5 games. We'll see if that has any bearing on it. But the games do start tomorrow night. All the games are 5:30 tip-off locally here in the Pacific Northwest, 8:30 in the East. Lakers and Nuggets are the first game. We're going to see alternate nights for the next couple of weeks. However long the series lasts, but if they go 7 games, will be a couple of weeks. Lakers Nuggets tomorrow, 5:30. Game 1, Heats and Celtics. It goes on Wednesday, 5:30 tip-off. So I'm pretty excited. I really wish the Warriors were still there. I'd be more excited, but that's the way it goes. I hope you're very right that the dynasty hasn't ended, and Steph can get himself a running mate. I don't know what the heck happened with Clay. Really disappointed with him. Jordan Poole, not a guy that I want on the team anymore. Hopefully they can find somebody to offload with him, and then bring back most of this team. Just need a piece or two, and I think they can compete again. Okay. There's a basketball note that we have to discuss that I can't believe we're having to discuss again. It is insane to think of somebody that has an incredible amount of athletic ability. It gets recognized at a young age. They have to overcome so many things to get to be a professional athlete. A professional NBA player is one of the toughest team spots to ever make it to in this world, because these rosters are small. It's very, very, very difficult. Only a very, very select few players have ever made the NBA, let alone become stars and have max contracts handed to them. And we are witnessing somebody that might be throwing their career away in front of our eyes in a guy in Ja Morant. Ja Morant has had numerous run-ins with weapons over the past few months, and we saw it come to a head a couple months ago when he was suspended for a couple games, decided to go and get some counseling and say, I've really realized that I'm making mistakes and I'm going to change, and I'm not going to do stupid stuff like this anymore. And 2 months later, we have to witness this again. We are seeing a guy that has probably thrown away about $40 million in career earnings to this point, and possibly another $10 million coming. And this is just crazy to watch and witness. And it's just idiotic that we can see a guy with so much talent, the world by the tail, and he just can't get out of his way and figure this out. It's just stunning and shocking. We've seen it done by other athletes, but doesn't it just blow you away that we can see this again? And he had an opportunity to change his whole life just a couple months ago, and he's going to go and screw it up again. Like, what are we seeing? How are we witnessing this for another time? And a guy that has the possibility of ruining a great possible career.
So I'm guessing you're referring to the incident just recently happened off Instagram where he was seen flashing a gun. Good music was playing in the background, by the way. I think people missed that part. But yes, stupid. Really just idiotic and stupid. Like, I don't understand. Okay, so here's number one. If I was his agent, I'd go into his house, taking all your guns. And then I'll be like, wow, you got a lot of guns. But I'm taking all your guns away. All your guns are gone. Like, like if you want security, we'll pay for it. All right. We'll move on from there. Like, but just get all those guns away from him. And then also too, like, why? like honestly, like it's like, why would you do that? Like even criminals know that if they have like a social media presence, I'm not gonna flash my guns on there. That's stupid. And just dumb. And so and it's almost like he can't get out of his own way, where he's just like, love guns. Love me some guns. And I gotta flash them all the time. Like, what is wrong with you? Like he's clearly been given like now, he's been given advice of maybe you should stop doing that because it's actually gonna possibly end your career and just cost you a boatload of money that you would rather have in your bank account. Right? But I guess maybe these things are not getting into him. Maybe he didn't do enough counseling, clearly, because like he just keeps making the same mistake over and over again. I'm curious to see what the league is going to do with him. Clearly, suspension is coming up because it's conduct detrimental to the league. So like something's going to happen to him. And then the next question is, what are the Memphis Grizzlies going to do? Saw what they did to Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
Although this is John Morant we're talking about, but
yeah, well,
you know what
the best player they've got. I don't see them doing the same as what they've done to Dylan, but he's running the risk of missing half a season. The only other gun related NBA suspension that I can remember was Gilbert Arenas got 50 games for bringing a gun into the locker room. This was not in the locker room, but this is a second incident, actually like a fourth incident in the past year, and a second incident where they warned him and they gave him a few game suspension and said, figure your stuff out. Obviously going and doing this small little counseling had no bearing on it. We talk about people getting addicted to alcohol, addicted to drugs. Can somebody get addicted to handguns?
You know what? Yeah, because I think we're seeing it right now. Like he just, I don't know. I guess he just loves the look, like how it really, carries it in his hand and just like, oh, doesn't that look cool? Doesn't it though? Doesn't it? No, you're not in the movie, man. You're not in the movie. This is real life, and real life has real life consequences, and those consequences are you're just costing yourself money. You're costing yourself money, and you're ruining your brand, and also too, all the sponsorship money that you could possibly be making. Now people are like, I'm definitely not investing into that. Yeah, that's not what our company or corporation is all about.
Well, he's already lost a Powerade commercial that he had, and I don't see a lot of corporations stepping up and handing him money over the next few years anyway. And this is tough. We do know that a lot of young people are addicted to social media. This is something that I think he, is a really, really big example, and how it can really go wrong for him. We talk about a lot of people that go to clubs and they get caught on a video camera or on a camera because, maybe they're too drunk, maybe they're cheating on their wife, maybe they're doing, things. And we, know that everybody has a camera on them, but these are his buddies. These are his Instagram friends and the Instagram of them. It's not TMZ. It's not paparazzi getting these shots. So it's outrageous. I think a lot of NBA contracts going forward should have social media clauses in them, shouldn't they? You can't be on this social media platform. You can't do this. I know you said his brand, and a lot of people use these social media platforms to increase their brand and give them the ability to reach more people and make more money off of social media. But I don't know if we've seen somebody losing this much money because of social media, have we?
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't think so, because usually people are smart about how they use their social media, which is to build their brand. But what Jaw's done is the opposite, which is like, I'm going to use my social media to destroy myself, like to literally destroy my brand, to destroy everything that I built up to this point. everything I worked so hard to accomplish, it's like it's literally blowing up in his face. And I'm kind of wondering, does he want it to stop? Because if he wants it to stop, he needs to stop doing these kind of stupid things. Like he just needs to stop doing that, or get people around him that are a better influence, or like care about his well-being or care about him succeeding. Because the people around him right now, they're not doing him any favors. They're actually just costing him everything.
The funny thing that I've always heard from a lot of athletes is that at a certain point, the gang members in their neighborhood saw that a guy had a potential to have a life outside of the gang culture. He has an opportunity to be a rapper that doesn't have to be in the gang. He has an opportunity to be a professional athlete. He has an opportunity to not have to live this gang life, this gang culture. And so they don't pressure them into it. They actually tell them, hey, you're not cut from the same cloth as us. We don't want you to be doing this because you've got the potential to be out of it. And so, you know, when a guy has the proper types of people around him, they discourage this type of behavior. They discourage this type of lifestyle and showing off that you're bad and you're mean and you got this, you know, weapon here. Look out. I don't know who he has surrounding him. I don't know the friends that he's grown up with. These guys that grow up in the inner cities and these tough situations usually are discouraged at a very young age when they display their amazing athletic ability to get themselves out of there. It's too bad that the people around him aren't doing that and aren't telling him, hey, you know, you don't want to be this life, you want to be that life, and we are so proud that you came from our neighborhood and you've made it this big. Don't go the same route we've gone because this is the only route we had to choose.
Yeah, exactly. But those same people are people that want to see him succeed. They want him to be successful. I don't necessarily know if the people he's hanging out with want that for him.
Right.
It's more of a selfishness thing of, well, you got there and we're still going to be the same as we've always been, and we're just going to take what we can from you. They're not helping him. They're not elevating him in any way whatsoever. What they're doing instead is they're bringing him down.
Yeah.
They're bringing him down, and it's sad to see because I don't understand why he doesn't see it, or maybe he just doesn't want to hear it. Either way, it is going to affect him.
It's reminding me of two names come to mind: Michael Vick and Aaron Hernandez. And you know, they both had some pretty dark days, very tragic circumstances, and yeah, it's sad that these athletes can't see these examples of guys that have ruined their careers and ruined their lives, and you know, avoid this type of action altogether.
Yeah. You know what? History can repeat itself. Hopefully, my goodness, I can't believe I'm even saying this. Hopefully, he doesn't go down that route of Aaron Hernandez, especially, or a Michael Vick. But you know, like if he doesn't start getting his head in shape and everything in order, he might not go to jail, but he will lose his NBA career.
Yeah.
And that would suck for us as fans, because I would prefer to just see him do amazing stuff on the basketball court. That's actually what I would prefer to see.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, take away everything off the court. One of the most exciting players that have hit the NBA in many years. Just so athletic, incredible leaping ability, a phenomenal talent. From all accounts I've heard, really thinks the game well, is a very great basketball mind, and you know, has the potential to be one of the most dynamic players in his generation. And it's just really sad to see somebody that you know, has this potential to maybe just be throwing it all away.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly sad to see. Like, it just, like, you know, when I first heard it happen, I'm like, you didn't learn from that, you know, like all those other times, like especially the last time when it was really bad. Like, you're not learning anything, right? You're just repeating the same mistake over and over again. Like, how, like, when are you going to learn? That's the question. When are you going to learn? Like, is this going to be the last of it? Or is there just going to be another incident like in a couple of months here or a month?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that these lots of these super max contracts are tied to making the all NBA teams. And I think he has the big potential to make these all NBA teams if he doesn't have these off the court struggles. And that's why I think he lost 40 million off this max contract he signed. It's not the super max that he could have been eligible for. We mentioned it last week with Brown and Tatum both eligible for those max contracts now, and he's not. Yeah, it's brutal. It's shocking. Hopefully he can get this sorted out. He's been given many chances, and this might be the last one. So yeah, let's see what the NBA decides to do after their investigation, and decides how they're going to handle this. I think a very long, lengthy suspension is going to take place, and probably demanding counseling, and probably having to go to gun victims and going to people affected by gun violence, and hearing their stories and seeing why this is no joke. This isn't something that you can laugh and dance around to some song and just flash a gun. This is the NBA, and they've got rules, and it's a no-go. Never again. Never again are we going to see a gun in his hand, hopefully.
Well, hopefully not. I've listened to Gilbert Arenas has a podcast, and he gave great advice of what Josh should be doing, which is basically, to summarize, it's the same thing as us. But at the same time, he went a couple steps further, actually, which is clean up your look, get rid of the braids, just have like a nice, short, clean haircut, and put in the work and disappear off the map. That's what he said actually just before this gun incident happened.
Wow.
Where it's just like, just put the work in, keep your head down, and then come back with a certain ferociousness for the next season. But just be out of the spotlight. And no sooner does he say those words than a couple of days later, or do that instead.
Yeah. You mentioned branding. You mentioned about the Warriors and this not being their last dance. There was an amazing documentary a couple of years ago, The Last Dance for the Chicago Bulls, and this weekend they finally released a movie called Air, and it was about the Nike story about signing Michael Jordan and trying to reshape how athletes are paid by endorsements, and a famous Nike signing of Jordan back in the 90s or 80s, sorry, 80s. And I saw the movie. Wow, it was fantastic. It was so well done. I really got very inspired, and it was just amazing to remember some of the things that went on back then, and how the landscape of athletes and how they're paid completely changed. Michael Jordan had an amazing career and was paid very well, but he only made $90 million from his salary in his historic career, and he's made billions in endorsements. And his mom demanded that they pay him per shoe with his name and likeness on the shoe, and they didn't do that for an athlete before, and they weren't planning on ever doing that for an athlete moving forward. She said they will sign with Nike if they will agree to that, and it continues to bring in revenue for him to this day, and it was one of the greatest things ever done. Nike went from number 3 in the basketball shoe market to number 1, and probably will be number 1 forever and ever and ever. And it was a really good movie. I recommend it. Jason, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it to all our viewers and listeners. An awesome movie.
Yeah, I've heard great things. I haven't seen the movie myself, but the thing that I did hear about that I was actually very surprised at was how instrumental Michael Jordan's mom was into making these deals, and the sound advice that she had. in these deals, which I was amazed at. But at the same time, those are the kind of people you need in your life that you can absolutely count on, that will significantly make your choices easier and make you better.
Yeah.
Because that's great advice. That kind of advice is what I wish Ja would be getting right now at this moment in time. I just don't believe he's getting any of that.
No. No. And for a lot of Black athletes, their mother was their lone parent present in the household. Most of them, the mother had to work 2 or 3 jobs, sacrifice her life for her kids, and usually the moms are put very high up on a pedestal and looked at as like, wow, I don't get here unless my mom made all these sacrifices and put in this hard work and did all she did. And it was great to see them portray his mom. And it's amazing that you and I, such basketball fans, know so much about Michael Jordan, know so much about his life and his career. First time that we're really hearing his mom getting so much credit for this. It's weird that we didn't really know that so much, as a way of just knowing that he doesn't get where he got if his mom wasn't such a huge part of his life.
Yeah. I remember Ben Affleck was actually talking about the movie. And I think one of the things that Michael said, like, because he had to ask for permission to even make the movie from Michael.
Sure.
Said that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he said, if you're going to make it like this, then I'm not the focus of this movie. And Ben Affleck's like, what? Then it's my mom. She should be the focus. And that's the way that, like, I was impressed to hear that, but then I was curious about why. And then when I heard from other friends that have seen the movie, then I knew why. And I was like, oh, that's just a great story. That's a great story. And there's a reason why that guy is super successful. There's a reason for that, right? There's a reason why he didn't misstep, because he knew the incredible amount of responsibility he had carrying on his shoulders, like with the carry of the league and to be who he is, and the fact that like he had to grind so hard to be the best, even with his amazing talent, all of that sort of stuff. There's a reason why he is where he is right now. Yeah. Now, I hope that Ja can finish this, like figure this out, get back on track, and then we never hear about this nonsense again. Yeah. But we could very easily hear it go the complete opposite way, and maybe he has another incident in a couple of months. So,
yeah. The other really big character in the movie is Sonny Vaccaro, and holy cow, so awesome to see him, getting so much of the credit. Matt Damon plays his character, and just seeing how he just had a feeling about Michael. He just knew it. He just saw it. Most people didn't see it. Michael Jordan was drafted 3rd overall in his draft class. He was cut from his high school basketball team. He was, second fiddle to James Worthy in North Carolina. He, hit the winning shot to win their title, but was playing second fiddle as a young freshman, and a guy that, wasn't recognized as this mercurial talent that was going to become the greatest of all time. And Sonny Vaccaro saw it in him and just continued to just press Nike and press everybody that he knew that they should do this. They should get him. This is going to be so good for Nike, so good for Michael, great for his family, great for athletes in general. It was really cool to see how he risked it all. He was risking his job, his career, everything, his reputation on getting Michael Jordan signed, giving him more money than Nike had ever given an athlete before. And it was cool. Yeah, I really, really highly recommend it to everyone. And it was one of my favorite movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, eventually, definitely, I'm going to check it out, because being raised by a single mother myself, like I'm curious just to see how the movie played out, and just other decisions that she helped Michael make throughout his legendary career.
Yeah. Okay, last basketball note for me. We've got the NBA draft lottery tomorrow. The teams will have the ping pong balls go into the whatever you call the little spinny thing, and and we'll find out who gets to draft Victor Wembanyama, the 7'5" Frenchman, and the Pistons, Rockets, and the Spurs have the best odds currently to draft him. They all hold a 14% probability from the lottery. Detroit was 17-65 this season, and were by far the worst team. Houston and San Antonio both finished with 22-60 records. This will change one of these franchises. Number 4 is your team with a 12.5% chance. Charlotte Hornets have an opportunity maybe to change their fortunes. They've fallen on hard times in the last while, and it would be phenomenal for them. I'll just go down the rest of the list. Portland Trailblazers 10.5%, Orlando Magic 9%, Indiana Pacers 6.8%, Washington Wizards 6.7%, Utah 4.5%, Dallas 3%, Chicago Bulls 1.8%, and the Raptors 1%. Is that the last? And New Orleans has 1% chance to. So yeah, this is a big deal, and very life-changing. I talked about it in hockey. We've got this guy Connor Bedard that grew up just on the North Shore here. Will change the fortunes of a NHL franchise going forward. But this 7'5" got everything that you want in a big man, and a great shooter, everything. He will really change the fortunes of a franchise coming forward.
Oh yeah, he most certainly will. That's why some of these teams are just like, nah, we don't need to be good this year. We just don't need to be good this year.
Yeah.
So that's how impactful he's going to be once he enters the league. You've seen like the highlights and everything else. The one thing that you could tell now that's definitely happening, this is a thing now. The overseas talent is just becoming more and more significant as we go on throughout these years. Because like now you're looking at it, who are our major candidates for MVP even this year? Like they're all overseas.
All European guys, yeah. African, yeah.
They're not from the States anymore, right? And then who's going to be number 1 is this 7'5" French dude that plays like Kevin Durant, right? So man, it this is a thing that's now we should just be getting used to this.
Yeah, it's a global game, and I think the Dream Team is one of the main reasons for that. That popularity just seemed to skyrocket and put basketball on the map in so many different countries around the world, and we're seeing the remnants years later from it. Wembanyama is number 1 consensus. Everybody thinks for sure he's going to go. Number 2 is a toss-up from what I'm hearing. It's between Brandon Miller out of Alabama and Scoot Henderson, who played with the G League Ignite team this past year. Those are the two that they're not sure who's going to go number 2. We'll see who gets number 2 and what their need is. Maybe they will favor one guy over the other. And then we've got 2 twins that are supposed to go in the top 5 as well. Amen and Ausar Thompson are 2 guys that are, people think that they're going to be incredible talent. And there might be some jockeying for positions, maybe to try to get both of those guys on the same team.
You usually do, like getting both twins on a team, I think that's always a smart move. Yeah. Because like they read off each other, like just like with the Steves with us with the Canucks. It's almost like they have that unspoken thing where it's just like, oh no, I just know where he's gonna be. It's gonna be easy. So it does help. And it just helps with the fluidity of the game and everything else. It'd be cool. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but if I was a team that had a chance to get both of them, I would do my best to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Of course. Yeah, me too. Yeah, it worked here with the Sedin twins and Brian Burke working his magic on the draft day floor and was able to get both twins, and it changed this organization for many years and really propelled them into some really, really successful years. I'm going to update the hockey game here. We're in the second period, 4.5 minutes left, and it is scoreless still, game 7. Dallas, Seattle Kraken, Dallas Stars, Seattle Kraken. The game is in Dallas, a little bit of advantage there, but yeah, this is amazing to see. All Canadian teams have now been eliminated from the NHL playoffs. This weekend saw the Toronto Maple Leafs fall in game 5 and the Edmonton Oilers fall in game 6. And the drought continues here north of the border. 30 years and counting since a NHL team has been able to hoist the Stanley Cup. And I think the drought will be pretty lengthy going forward when guy's a free agent. Why is he going to sign in Canada? He's never going to win a cup. You want to, as a free agent later on in your career, you want to be able to win championships, and you can't if you're playing here, it sure looks like.
Yeah. And also, too, it's kind of cold, right? So, like, why not go and play for Florida, right?
Yeah, you're right. That is definitely a big factor, I think. Winnipeg, Florida. Winnipeg, Florida. I think Florida's probably going to win out if you got lots of money like that. So, okay, let's turn to the UFC. We had this card coming out of North Carolina. This is called the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. They've had a few cards there over the years, and yeah, it's been 5 years since the last one there. This one was a headline by a all heavyweight battle. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, number 9 contender in the heavyweight division, against an up-and-comer Jailton Almeida out of Brazil. The odds were heavily in favor of Almeida, and we could see why. He went for a takedown, couldn't get it off a Biggie Boy, and got a couple of props from the guys. Hey, way to go! He was able to stuff that. A few seconds later, the second takedown attempt comes, and Almeida gets him down, and then Biggie Boy was just a swimming, trying to get himself up. No chance. Was taken out with a rear naked choke, and Almeida is on a huge rise, and I think we could see him champion one day. He looks absolutely amazing, and especially if these heavyweight guys don't have that amazing takedown defense, if they aren't incredible on the ground, yeah, Almeida's just going to walk through them like this one.
Yeah. His grappling is on another level. I would say it's probably not gonna. Yeah, Daniel Cormier level.
Yeah,
it's not Daniel Cormier level, but it is very close to it. That's how good he is. Because once Rozenstruik got to the ground, you kind of knew, oh, he's not getting up. He's not getting up. Like, it's just like, no, it was a wrap. And the thing that I loved about Almeida was he just took his time. Because he already knew it's like, oh, once I get you to the ground, the fight's pretty much over. I'm just going to take my time. And he did that, got his back, sunk the rear naked choke in. And he almost looked like he even took his time doing that. He was just like, there we go. and then he choked him out, man. Like,
playing with his food. It was almost like playing with his food, you know. He did it. Yeah, he looked like he was just taking it easy and was able to get that done. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, like he made it look super effortless. Yeah. And I thought that the one thing that he would obviously have to worry about was coming in if Rozenstruik could hit him with like an uppercut or a knee or something like that. But, like, you know, he didn't get caught with that. And now the heavyweights have to be on notice. You got to look out for that guy, because if he takes you down, it's a wrap.
Yeah. Khamzat Chimaev came into the UFC, and in his first 4 fights, he absorbed only one significant strike. and everybody was just immediately, oh, he's going to be a champ one day. Look out, nobody's going to be able to beat him. He went up against Gilbert Burns and took a lot of abuse, and finally saw that, step up in competition. This is tough here. But this is a guy in Rosenstrike who's been in there with almost everybody we can name in the top 10 of the division, and he just walked through him. Almeida has only suffered 2 significant strikes in 5 UFC fights. This was obviously his toughest competition, but we're starting to see a guy that, I can really envision in a year or two being able to fight for a title here. This is a guy that's very scary for these heavyweights.
Yeah, he's scary, all right. Now, if you envision him fighting for the title, this is what I actually envision too. It's going to be Jon Jones still, I believe. The question is his striking going to be good enough to compete with Jon Jones? Right. We all know how good Jon Jones' grappling is. So, because if Jon Jones neutralizes his grappling, then what else are you going to go to? Which is going to have to be his striking. So as he's making this run, I think his striking is going to have to improve.
Sure.
Yes, he's obviously awesome on the ground, but his striking has to get there too as well.
Yeah. Okay, so now who's next? Who does Almeida fight next? I looked at some of these people in the top 10. I think after the ratings come out later on this evening, I believe. Maybe not until tomorrow, but maybe the winner between Tom Aspinall, Marcin Tybura, possibly. I would love to see him against a guy like Curtis Blades. I think, styles make fights, and these two, the 2 best grapplers in the division, might be really, really super fun to watch. You got any other names that you would like to see him up against, or have a feeling that he might fight next?
I think if I'm Almeida's part of Almeida's team, top 5 guy, right? Because after this, he's probably just going to take over Rosenstrike's position of number 9, right?
Yeah.
So I would take a top 5 guy, but I love your idea of Curtis Blades. I actually think he's ready for that. He's ready for that step up in competition right now. And I'm pretty sure Blades doesn't have anybody to fight right now. He's free. He's open. They should make that fight happen.
That really might happen. That would be fun to watch. The other thing that I was thinking about is that Jon Jones is, everybody talks about it's Jon Jones, Stipe Miocic next. I don't think they've signed a contract yet, but that's who they seem to want him to fight. Jon Jones has really actually been considering retirement. He's been talking about it openly for the first time I've ever remember, and maybe wants to do it after this Stipe fight. Would you be shocked if Jones hangs it up after the Stipe fight?
A little, because I would think to myself that he should still have some tread left on the tires, so to speak, because he hasn't really been that active over the last couple of years, really. So, and then also too, he just signed a new contract with the UFC, so I thought at least he would try to get through half of the contract before this talk of retirement and stuff. Because so far in this for this new contract, he's only fought the 2. If he fights Stipe, which we all think he is, that's only going to be 2 fights into it.
Yeah.
So I thought at least he'd fight maybe one more after that, and then start talking about retirement, right? So, but maybe he knows his body better than anybody else, and maybe he feels like I'm getting to that point.
I would love is Jon Jones beat Stipe, I think, and then Sergey Pavlovich gets his opportunity against Jones, and then Almeida fights Pavlovich, or fights the winner, I guess, out of Jones Pavlovich. Pavlovich to me is one of the guys that I think is going to hold the belt again one day soon.
Yeah, he's scary. He's scary. Got a tremendous amount of power, great hands. He's just like good all around. Definitely a threat to anybody that's holding the belt in the heavyweight division.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens with Jonathan, but he is on a rise. He got 50K as one of the bonuses for this fight, and deserved. So the co-main event really didn't deliver. Didn't really like the fight. Was a lot of just posturing. I could see that Johnny Walker's length and height and length really gave Anthony Smith some trouble. Smith put up a game fight, but Walker didn't impress me very much in this win. He got the win, but it was just okay.
Yeah, you know what? It's I was looking forward to a firefight. We didn't get to see that. Both fighters were extremely cautious. I think Anthony Smith had problems with like Walker's length because he's not used to a man being bigger than him. Because Anthony Smith is a pretty big dude and Walker's a bigger dude. So I think he had problems trying to get within striking range. And the other thing is Walker's calf kick, leg kicks were extremely effective. You could see Smith definitely laboring in the third round. Like he didn't have much left in the third round. You could tell, you could see it. So it was a good win by Walker, but and unfortunately, we just didn't get to see the fight that I thought we were going to see, which was going to be a firefight.
Yeah,
this didn't work out that way.
Yeah, too bad it didn't. But you're right; those calf kicks were deadly and really wore Anthony Smith down, and it sapped his ability to take this fight to Walker later on in the rounds. We talked about a meteoric rise with Jason Almeida. Ian Gary in the welterweight battle with him and D-Rod. Gary is has got comparisons to Conor McGregor because he's Irish and he's brash, and he has been able to really dispatch everybody in his UFC career as well as his mixed martial arts fighting career. And this was another level. A really great win here. Gets a head kick, basically a head kick knockout. Was able to take out a super tough guy and D-Rod and make it kind of look easy in this fight.
Yeah, man. I would say this. If you're going to compare him to Conor McGregor, I think Gary's more better rounded than Conor. Mm-hmm. More well-rounded, and I think he's more talented. Because it was the way that he dispatched Rodriguez. This was a statement win. Clearly, he's ready for top 10 talent now. He's ready for it because you just don't start Rodriguez like this in the first round and KO him. Like nobody does that. Nobody has done that to Rodriguez. So I think definitely his next fight should be somebody in the top 10. And he just looked so slick and good against a guy that's very good in his stand-up, and he was better. He was much better.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He got 50K for his win, and he did make a call out, and I'm going to how can I not remember? I'll have to think about it as we keep going on, but he did make a call out. I don't think I have it written down in front of me, but
I can't remember either.
Neil Magny was his call out. That's who he wants to fight next, and I think that would be awesome. I hope they'd make that happen.
Yes, thank you. And it was Neil Magny because Neil Magny is ranked number 10.
Yeah.
And like I said, top 10 guy, that guy's number 10. And I think Gary's going about it the right way. He's not calling out for somebody like ridiculous. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Right? That makes sense. So he can break into the top 10 and then leapfrog again within the top 10. So I believe that they'll make that fight happen because they should.
Ian Gary, before this fight, said he has a 7-fight plan to fight for the title after 7 fights. So he was going to dispatch D-Rod, then he was going to get a top 10, get a top 6, or top 7, and then into the top 5, few fights, and then fight for the title. So yeah, he's doing it the right way, not trying to bite off more than he can chew early on and take on opponents that he shouldn't yet. But at 12-0, yeah, I think the sky's the limit for this guy. It's great to see so many prospects, so many guys coming in, fight card after fight card, where we're like, wow, holy cow, here's a guy that I could see holding a belt one day. And yeah, this is another guy where you're like, yeah, legitimately, if he fights properly and he does what he's saying, yeah, I could see him being a champ one day.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can definitely see him being a champ one day, and especially with the fact that he does have a plan, and the plan is working.
Yeah.
So if he just sticks to the plan, I think definitely the future looks very bright for that.
As I said, he got 50K bonus for that win, as well as the light heavyweight winner in the fight previous to this one. Carlos Ulberg beat Ihor Peteria, gets a 50K bonus for his knockout, just 2 minutes and 9 seconds in. This was a mismatch, I thought, and it kind of proved out to be that way with Ulberg's big knockout.
Yeah, Poteria didn't have any stand-up, at least no stand-up that could stand up to Ulberg's, who's I like way better than him. Like he tried to shoot, but he didn't put any hands or any strikes in. Like before, there was no setup for his grappling. There was none whatsoever. And so Ulberg was just waiting for his opportunity. And that's all he had to do. He just waited for his opportunity. And when he landed that left and collapsed him, ground and pound, quick finish. Yeah, Ulberg needs to fight better competition than that, because that was too easy.
Yeah, it was a mismatch, but gets another victory and puts another notch in his belt. Only 10 fights into his mixed martial arts career, so lots of room and lots of fights to happen. So yeah, but let's put him up against somebody that's a little more his competition next time. The fight that kicked off the main card were two OGs, two long-time guys that have been around for many years, Tim Means and Alex Morono. Morono was definitely the better guy in this one, and was able to get a really good submission victory over a very tough guy in the Dirty Bird, Tim Means.
Yeah, like Tim Means is, I love watching that guy fight, because like he's extremely technical. He's just well-rounded in everything. But the way that Morono caught him in that round 2 was he was creative. He adapted on the fly, because he missed with a spinning back fist. And then when he missed, he was just like, oh, the guy's neck is right there. And he literally locked up the guillotine like that.
So fast. Yeah.
So fast, locked it up, went to the ground, technically did some things where he stood up and put more pressure on his neck to really cinch in that guillotine choke, because Tim Means knows how to defend that. Yeah. But with the subtle shift and changes of the weight distribution that Morono did, so he could really sink it in tighter, Means had no choice but to tap. And I thought that was just beautifully done by Morono. Fantastic win on this part.
Huge, yeah, very good. Just an update on the Stanley Cup playoffs, Game 7 between the Dallas Stars and Seattle Kraken. Dallas scored 4 minutes left in the second period. The first goal, 1-0. Rupe Hintz, who's been just phenomenal for them in the playoffs, one of the leading scorers in the playoff tournament so far, gets the goal, and it's into the second intermission now. 1-0 Dallas. We'll see what the third period holds for it. Okay, so prelim card now. We get to, I talked about a couple OGs on that last fight. This is really, really, really an OG in Matt the Immortal Brown, 42 years old, holds many records in the UFC, and still is able to come out, fight a really tough guy who's been around for a long time as well, and get a highlight reel walk-off knockout. Tied the record for the most knockouts individual in the UFC history with Derek Lewis with 17 KOs. He's just one of those guys that just won't die. That's why he's called the Immortal. And this was one of those classic that's going to go on his top of his highlight reel. Very, very awesome walk-off KO.
Oh, yeah. Like he timed it perfect, because he even said that post-fight. I was just going to time up his jab. And when he timed it perfect, he caught him coming in, used his weight against him, his momentum, forward momentum against him with that short right hand. And when Court McGee collapsed, he didn't even try to fight. He was like, "Yeah, I'm done." And I loved how Brown just looked at him and said, "Oh, yeah, he's done." And he just didn't even try because he knew. No. Like I knew once he collapsed like that, I'm like, "Oh no, that fight's over, man." And then even the ref was kind of looking, going, "Oh, he's not. Oh, okay, no, the fight is over. Okay, yeah. Okay. I see why he's not trying to go to the ground against him." But
yeah, it was one of those funny walk-off knockouts where you're like, wow, yeah, he didn't follow it up with any ground and pound, any hammer fist, anything. He just knew I connected. This guy's not getting up, and Court was just laying there like, oh, what was that just hit me? I don't even know where I am, what I'm doing, and that was it. It was. Yeah, it was something we're going to see, I think, for years on a highlight reel tape. And it was a beautiful, beautiful knockout. And great to see a 42-year-old guy being able to still play his trade and, still get spectacular KOs like this.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's great to see. What was even better to see, though, is this Hype Brown was like, yeah, so I'm going to have to try to get that record of 18 KOs. So what does that mean? We get to see more Matt Brown. Yeah. He's like, nope, not retiring anytime soon. I gotta get that record first.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah, they just kept putting up really cool stats and things like that. It said most knockouts outside the UFC and inside the UFC. He's third on the division list in the welterweight division. Neil Magny, we mentioned earlier, he has 20. George St. Pierre, the great Canadian, 19, and Brown now 17, meaning career before the UFC and UFC combined. He's got the most wins, most fights, just so many things that they listed off as accomplishments for Matt the Immortal Brown. And I love to see that he has his own gym now. It's Carl the Immortal MMA. He has his own coffee, the Immortal Coffee. He's doing a lot of things outside the cage, getting ready for this post-fight career, but not quite yet. Give him another year or two. He's got a few more KOs and wins to get, and then he can go off and have a very successful post-fight career.
Yeah. Like I love hearing stories about that, about guys that are already trying to set themselves up for after their fighting career is done. We've already heard his story, what he had to go through, how he had to battle, to get to the UFC, battle substance addiction and abuse and all that sort of stuff. And that's the one thing I really appreciate with this fight, because both of these guys kind of came through all of that. They both had the same sort of struggles. So it's almost kind of like they're looking in the mirror. And you could tell that there was a ton of respect coming from both men. Ton of respect.
Ton for sure. Loved it. Yeah. Okay. Not a lot to talk about in the heavyweight fight between Carl Williams and Chase Sherman. This was a decision win by Carl Williams. I think also a guy that, as a heavyweight, uses a lot of really good calf kicks and was able to utilize that as sort of the defining factor on winning. He went for a ton of takedowns, was only able to land, I think, 1 out of 11, I think it was. And, so there wasn't a lot to distinguish between these two guys, but I think Carl just gets the nod, maybe a few more strikes landed, definitely more calf kicks, and Sherman just, it limited him a little bit in this fight.
Yeah, I just thought that Williams was just a little bit more effective on his counter punching. His counters that he had, and the fact that he was more aggressive with his takedowns. But Sherman didn't have great takedown defense, and the man can eat a punch. I'll say that about Sherman. That dude could take a punch, because he took a lot of them on the chin, and it kept walking forward, kept moving forward. So I was pretty impressed by that, because I'm sure a couple of those punches would have taken anybody else out.
Big time, yeah. This was this fight between Cody Stamann and Douglas Silva de Andrade. It became a catchweight fight because it was a late replacement fight. Stamann says he is no longer fighting on this weight class and has just had enough of it. But this was an incredibly close fight between two super tough guys, and De Andrade ended up getting the decision, much to the chagrin of the crowd and a few others. It was, a little surprised. I felt De Silva was a little unsteady on his feet most of this fight, and was super tough. But what did you see in this battle?
I thought it was just super close, very, very competitive. Like if one guy were to hit, if one guy were to strike another one, the other guy fired back immediately. Right, like it was a give and take kind of fight, back and forth, back and forth. I personally thought Stamann won this fight, but it was split decision, so it's like it's toss up. But I thought I was going to give the nod to Stamann, but either way, very tough fight to like score because, like I said, it was back and forth, tit for tat. You hit me, I hit you, sort of deal, and De Andrade managed to get the win, but it was close, very close.
I had Stamann winning the first and the third round. I had De Silva winning second. Stamann had De Silva all in tons of trouble there. He ended up once he had him in trouble, he ended up grappling with him, and he should have disengaged and got him back to his feet and tried to finish him off. De Andrade was ripe for the picking there, and I think he could have knocked him out if he just landed a couple more shots. And I think he made a big mistake there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that because he landed those two solid lefts in the third round, and DeAndre was rocked. Now, if he had just was able to disengage, give himself some separation, and go in again, I think that fight is over.
Yeah. Okay, this women's flyweight fight, absolute joke. I can't even believe the UFC put this on. I've just disgusted when they put fight on where one fighter comes in 4 losses in a row, the other coming in off 2 losses in a row. These two looked ridiculous, and I don't even want to give them any time on our podcast. It was a joke fight, and I don't want to see either one of them. I hope they're both out of the UFC from now on.
I was going to be that harsh about it, but it was somewhat lackluster. It was. I personally thought this fight was going to be over quick because in the first round Kim landed that huge right hand, and I thought to myself, "Oh, okay, so this is going to be over. This is great." And then, unfortunately, it wasn't. And then we had to watch it for a couple more rounds. So.
Kim almost had her out early, and she took her to the ground. And I just said it about Stamann. She made a mistake. Went to the ground, was able to boom, was able to get her wits about her and grinded out a victory. I hated it. It was 20 minutes out of my life that I'll never get back, and I'm really bitter about it. And next time they come on, I'm changing the channel or fast forwarding to the next fight. I didn't like either one of them. So, but let's talk about a great guy that I loved watching, Bryan Battle, hometown guy, really the only hometown guy, which surprised me. North Carolina, you'd think, okay, we got North Carolina, we're gonna litter it with hometown people. This is the only guy that's born and raised there, and Bryan Battle was able to get $50K for this amazing 14-second knockout. The crowd was cheering so much as he was coming in, as he gets announced, and 14 seconds later, the crowd even got to roar even louder. Pretty cool, pretty amazing to see a guy come into his hometown, get that $50K, and electrify the crowd. Second fight of the night. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. But you know what helped in this very quick knockout was the fact that Green just thought to himself, I'm just going to blow this guy out of the water. And I'm just going to bull rush him.
Get him run at him.
Yeah, because it's almost as if it's like, I got to go to the bathroom like now. So I just got to get this guy. Like it was odd to me because I'm like, oh, does he really think that this Brian Battle has no power coming back? Because that's what it seemed to me. Like he just had utter disrespect for the power coming back at him. That's why he felt that he could just bull rush him and just bully him. And so when they got that firefight up against the cage, I'm like, any one of these guys could be knocked out at this time because it's whoever gets there first, right? And Battle's right hand got there first, and that was all she wrote.
Shut him down. Yeah, that was awesome. It was a weird game plan of Gabe Green because he just bull rushed him and just kept throwing, and he wasn't throwing straight punches, and he wasn't keeping his defense up. He was just hook, 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 boom, and it was over. And I was shocked. He didn't give him any credit. I know that Battle's nickname is Pooh Bear, and nobody's afraid of Pooh Bear, but if he had ever seen any of his fights, he should have been a little wary and kept his defense up and not just led with his chin like that. It was a very bad game plan, and I think they're going to rethink that game plan if that was what his team told him to do.
Oh yeah. I think next time, whenever you step into the octagon, you're gonna have to have a little bit of respect because the other guy got there for a reason too, right? You can't just go in there and think to yourself, well, I'm just going to blow this guy out. It should be pretty easy. No, man, no. You got to be worried about what's coming back at you. And hopefully Green learns from this experience and doesn't do it again. Or maybe he does do it again. And then I'm like, okay, this guy cool though.
And the funny thing is he calls out Ian Gary, who he didn't see fight yet. This is earlier in the night. Calls out Ian Gary. Don't see that happening because Gary seems to be going way up into the ranked fighters. Battle's not quite there yet. 10-2. This will move him up, but not quite to Gary's level quite yet, I don't think.
No, not there yet. And because what Brian Battle's going to have to do is get to Ian Gary's level. Gary's not coming back down to him. He's going up.
Okay. Anything that you really want to mention about the fight that kicked off the night? Jessica Rose Clark against Taimara Lisboa, her UFC debut, the Thai Panther. I was impressed by both ladies. It was a heck of a fight, but Lisboa for her UFC debut, very impressive.
Super impressive. The thing that stood out to me the most was that Lisboa's hands were amazing. Her punch combos, her boxing was super on point, very, very accurate, and lightning fast hands. Fast hands. She hurt Rose Clark a lot with those hands, and I felt that was definitely the difference. And even when Rose Clark tried to take her to the ground, Lisboa's takedown defense was very good. Very good.
Third straight submission loss for Jessica Rose Clark. She better get back to jiu-jitsu training and get a lot better there. Doesn't want to continue that streak. She had a really bad elbow dislocation from her last fight, and I think she's got some PTSD from that. And she actually almost considered walking away. 35 years old. Her elbow was dislocated so badly that all the ligaments were torn in it, and she does not like fighting like that anymore, and hopefully she can keep it standing and not have to endure more of that. The only thing about Lisboa is that nasty cut above her eye as she's speaking. The crowd kept wincing because it was moving as she was speaking, opening up wider and wider, and it was pretty disgusting. That's gonna need some stitches, and it'll take her a little while to heal off of that cut. It was very wide open.
Yeah, it was nasty. It was nasty, and she's lucky that there was no more rounds left because, with a cut that bad, she wouldn't probably have been allowed to continue fighting.
No. Okay, next week we got a card. It's a little early. The prelims kick off at 1 o'clock our time. The main card 4 o'clock Pacific. 7 o'clock Eastern. I'm not really excited about the main event. Mackenzie Dern, Angela Hill. I could care less really about that. I'm not a fan of Edmund Shabazian. Anthony Hernandez. That doesn't move the needle for me. Emily Ducote was supposed to fight Poliana Viana, but now has a new opponent. Our Vancouver girl Lupita Godinez is fighting, which is kind of great. I'm happy to see her getting another opportunity. She's been fighting a lot lately, really getting a ton of opportunities. The welterweight battle between Andre Fiallo and Joaquin Buckley. I'm kind of excited about that one. I think that's going to be our fight of the night. Sorry to usurp you if that's who you were picking too.
No. You're absolutely right. Like I did take a brief look at this card and I was like, kind of weak. But this definitely, that'll be a fight that will be exciting to watch. That'll be the entertaining fight, and that'll be the fight of the night. This will be a great fight.
The fight that kicks off the main card is Diego Ferreira against Michael Johnson. Should be okay. I couldn't tell you too much about the rest of the prelim card. I do like Mahashate, and to see him fight a Vyacheslav Boryshev, that should be a pretty good fight actually. Mahashate, I do like what he brings, and it probably is a pretty competitive fight there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that's probably be pretty good competitive fight. And I also too, like, you know what? I think Michael Johnson and Diego Ferreira will also be a very competitive fight, because I really like watching Michael Johnson fight.
Chase Hooper's back. He suffered a defeat. His last fight, Nick Fiore is his opponent. Hooper is a guy who I think the UFC is really trying to showcase and trying to see how they can bring a young guy into the fold, and he will develop and eventually in his mid-20s to later 20s be one of those big contenders for a belt. And he did suffer a bad loss his last fight, but good to see him back. And I think he'll be able to shake this off and learn a lot from that one.
No, I think he should be able to shake it off, learn a lot from it, move forward, but not move forward too fast. You know what I mean? Like he still needs to fight the right kind of competition for him to develop.
In combat news, there was a big boxing match or big boxing card from the UK over the weekend. It sort of did move the needle a little bit for combat fans. KSI, the famous YouTuber, gets a knockout victory of Joe Fournier in the second round. Unfortunately, when they stopped it and you started seeing the replays, the knockout was actually caused by an elbow, and so there's a ton of controversy about this. You couldn't really see it in live time. It looked like a great punch that KO'd him. He had already rocked him and then landed this elbow that it definitely caused the knockout. Fournier and his team are appealing it to the Professional Boxing Association that they have in the UK. They have a more legitimate boxing sanctioned, but this is one that sort of sanctions these YouTubers and these sort of other kind of competitions that they have there from time to time. So a lot of controversy about this, and we'll see what they do about the decision and about the victory that once you see the replay, you realize it was caused by an elbow instead of a proper legal punch.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was fast enough though that the ref definitely couldn't have caught that. Right. No. So it's not the ref's fault. It's not the ref's fault. And I don't usually know like what the process is for that, because like once they do find out the reality of the situation, kind of like the same thing with what happened the last UFC where the guy got headbutted and which led to his loss, right?
Yeah, right.
So it should be something where they're able to go back and be like, nah, well, that shouldn't be a loss, or that shouldn't be given to a win by him because of that elbow. It sucks because obviously the guy was clearly rocked, and if he had just hit him with a real punch, then the results still would have been the same, but it didn't happen that way. So hopefully they get it right. but at the same time, it's like whatever. It's one of these charity things, YouTube things. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a charity thing or whatever. Who knows? Probably it should be called the no contest, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't really matter. It looks like he's going to be fighting Tommy Fury next, the guy that beat Jake Paul. Tommy Fury was outside the ring. He made the call out. Sounds like that's what happened. Unfortunately, Tommy Fury did get into a ringside brawl, and it caused a lot of problems there. This guy Idris Virgo he fought with. This all happened in this Wembley Arena. It's called the Oval Arena in London. I'm not sure. Jake Paul got onto social media immediately and called KSI a joke and said you're a cheater, and it was obviously done with a legal elbow. You don't deserve the stuff, and tried to stir up some controversy. I think he wants to fight KSI at some point, but Tommy Fury looks like his next opponent there. The other thing that was talked about a lot on social media and things was the national anthem of the US was sung by a guy named Gideon. Don't know this guy. I guess he's famous with the youngsters or something like that, but one of the worst American anthems I've ever heard sung. I think he did it so badly to get publicity and notoriety, because it was pathetic and horrible. And I'm going to put a link up on our website when I post this. It was terrible. One of the worst renditions of the American anthem ever. And I don't even know why they were doing it, in London like that, but it was so cringeworthy and brutal. And I don't know, maybe this Gideon guy gets famous for singing the anthem so poorly.
Was it on the same level as I'm trying to remember, Roseanne Barr? You remember that?
Yeah, she did it really badly, and she did it sort of like "F you guys." And it didn't seem like that was the case with him, but I think Roseanne goes down as one of the worst. I remember Fergie doing a super bad job at the NBA All-Star game. I remember a few people doing it very, very terribly, but this guy just seemed like he was legitimately trying, but just was a really bad singer, and it was bad. I recommend everybody listen to it. It'll make you laugh at least.
Okay, so there was one good thing that happened in that fight. Bad national anthem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. It's happening almost every weekend. We have to talk about these. Well, we don't have to talk about them, but it did get a lot of media attention and stuff like that. And it was pretty bizarre. Pretty bizarre card, and there was a few takeaways from me for that. Two NFL notes I want to mention. Matt Ryan just announced that he has joined CBS as an analyst. He turns 38 years old on Wednesday. Happy birthday, Matt. He spent 14 years of his career with Atlanta, obviously your favorite football team. He was a leader in passing, touchdown passes, and completions there. Almost 60,000 passing yards, 367 touchdowns, and 5,242 completions. He's also in the top 10 in the NFL in career numbers with passing yards, 62,792, places him seventh, and touchdown passes, 381, ninth on the all-time career list. He also put it right near the top of his post that he did not want to say this was his retirement announcement. And I'm like, okay, weird. Why wouldn't he do that at the same time? And then when I looked into it a little further, I realized that if he retires, he loses $12 million. So if he joins CBS and he's an analyst, he still gets his $12 million because he hasn't officially retired. And because the Colts released him and he didn't quit, he didn't retire, he still owed his full salary for this upcoming year. And so he can be one of the highest paid analysts that we'll ever see. And it'll be great to hear him with his commentary on CBS. I think he's going to do some games in in the studio analyst. But yeah, smart of him to not retire.
That's the genius way of double dipping. That's his genius way of double dipping. Like I didn't realize that. That is very smart, very astute of him to do. So because now he can do a CBS analyst job because he knows nobody's going to try to pick him up to play for their team. He doesn't really want to do that either. I'll just quietly take my $12 million from the Colts and do this job and make another 8 for this year. So yeah, not bad for Matt Ryan at all. I have a question for you though. Okay, so honestly, his career's over.
Looks like it.
Yeah. The Hall of Fame. You put him in a Hall of Fame with those numbers that you just mentioned.
Geez. I mean, top 10 in those categories. Pretty significant career. That I mean, you have to look at longevity and being able to be in the top 10 of quarterbacks of all time. Yeah, I mean, I think some serious consideration for him. If he would have been able to close out that 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, I think it's a no-brainer for sure. But maybe that loss keeps him on the outside for a little while.
Yeah, like that's like I when I think of Matt Ryan, I'm like, no, he did actually have a pretty successful career. But at the same time, do I think of him as a Hall of Fame quarterback? No. But then you look at his numbers, and it's like it's pretty close though.
Yeah.
If not, like if you just look at the numbers alone, you think, yeah, for sure. But then if you look at taking into the context of his body of work, yeah.
I mean, during his career, I never really looked at him as, one of those top 5 guys most years. He did win the MVP, I believe it was 2016, I think it was. But most years he seemed to fall out of those top 5 guys that you could, say were the top quarterbacks in the league at the time. So you didn't really consider a guy. You don't really consider a guy a Hall of Famer unless you're, thinking of those, year after year after year, top 5. But when he's been able to get 60,000 yards and 400 touchdowns and all that, you're starting to think, maybe he gets in there one day.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he gets in there one day. Maybe not like first ballot Hall of Famer, but he gets in there eventually. I think.
Yeah, good chance. Last note for the NFL. NFL announced that they will do a playoff game this season, January 13th, and it will be exclusively on a streaming platform, Peacock, which is part of the NBC network. This will be the first time a playoff game will only be available on streaming. Won't be one of the big 3 broadcast networks, big 4 broadcast networks, and this is kind of bizarre. They are paying $110 million for the rights for this, so that's quite a bit of money. Pretty big number, and when you're throwing around TV football numbers, they're pretty outrageous. But that's a lot of money, and I guess money talks for them to put it on streaming for this game. And I think there'll be a lot more streaming happening. We're talking Amazon and a lot of things NFL is in works with, but this is the first time they've made an announcement that the playoff game will just be streaming.
Yeah, interesting, right? Because then they've already set the price point. Price point is over $100 million if you want to do that, right? So then the next question is, are we going to see an increase in that? Is it going to take away more and more playoff games as we go along? Because now it started right now. So next year, is it going to be
That's the first step,
and then
2,
next
4,
year it's going to be 3.
Yeah.
And I begin to wonder how many are going to disappear from just regular cable that we normally watch, and then now it's on these different streaming services. It'd be interesting to watch. It'd be interesting to keep an eye on and how that develops.
I would love to see the numbers, real numbers on how many people have cut their cable off in the past 5 years. It is, I think it's going down dramatically every year. I think a lot of young people do not pay for cable anymore. They've got their movie streaming platforms. They've got streaming. If they're sports fans, they can find streaming sporting events. And I think cable is a dying industry, and it's probably going to be something that starts, going this direction more and more and more every year.
Yeah. I think so too. And I think the NFL is very aware of that. I think all the professional leagues are very aware of that. And so now the NFL is definitely beginning to dip their toe in and be like, all right, well, let's just see how it all works.
See how it works. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of money to say sure, we'll try it out. Yeah.
For
sure. Dallas Stars have scored their second goal. They're up 2-0 with a little less than 6 minutes to go in this game. So Seattle better get on it. The shots are 28-17 Dallas's favor, and Seattle needs 2 goals to push this any further, maybe into overtime. But Dallas is in the driver's seat here, winning game 7 and moving on. So I'll put some updates on the website later, and we'll say goodbye to Jason. I can't believe how time flew. We got to talk some great NBA and some great UFC and a little bit of hockey and some of this Misfits boxing. I'll try to keep that more to a minimum for you next time. I thought it was kind of funny, some of the stuff that was coming out of there, but anyway, I hope you have a great week ahead. Don't melt. Let's keep our fingers crossed. The temperature does decrease down a little bit this week, so we can get some good sleeps in and we can feel a little bit better, not being so hot and sticky.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that. I'm actually just hoping for it to be a little bit cooler even tonight. That would be great. It'd be fantastic. And I'm looking forward to watching some more basketball.
Yeah. Tomorrow night, it all begins again. Conference finals. They're going to be great. I'm looking forward to both series. It's going to be a lot of fun.
No, a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to seeing who gets out of those conference finals and gets into the finals. It's going to be great basketball.
Yeah, let's get together one game soon and go back to courtside, watch a game, and enjoy a night out.
Definitely, we're going to be doing that for sure.
Okay, buddy. Cheers. Take care. Thanks a lot for everything. Have a great night.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye for now. All right. Wow. I think we're about 2 hours and 15 minutes. It was we didn't cover a ton of stuff, but it just was a great conversation. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did presenting it for you. Thanks so much for everybody, all the great support lately. It's really growing leaps and bounds and loving it. Appreciate that you guys are loving it as well. Thanks for all the feedback. Thanks for all the great Mother's Day comments on our Instagram account yesterday too. Wow. Love it. Love to see everybody's love for their mom and all the great posts about moms out there. It was nice for us to talk a little bit about moms today. And give some shout outs. Michael Jordan's mom there. All the great things she did. So anyway, love you guys lots. Thanks so much again for tuning in. And make sure you support our partners and sponsors, Anchor.fm, Verbero, Forever Living, and Pampas Possibilities. Appreciate all your support and love you guys lots. Take care of yourself and have a phenomenal week ahead. Enjoy the sunshine and your friends and families. Take care. Love you. Bye for now.